Recording. Well, welcome everyone. Today is about system monitoring using a GX device and VRM, which is Victron Remote Monitoring, which is a website. I'll assume that a lot of people that log in already have used color controls. They have used previous forms. Some people might be new, but so I start from a reasonably with the idea that you sort of know some basics already, especially about inverters and charges and the like. So I've got a presentation, it's about 60 slides. There will be a copy made of this recording and a copy of the presentation. Afterwards, all attendees either signed out via Zoom or via Victron Professional will get a link to a folder that contains this presentation and the recording in it and the chat text as well, if I record it. I think I forgot it last time, I'm not sure. Yeah, so if you've got questions, type it in the chat. I will do the presentation first, and then afterwards I'm happy to go into details together with Kai. I might even help ask Kai things along the way as well, because Kai is the resident expert of the color control, although I know a lot too.
Yeah,
I still call it color control because that's, I should say GX device from now on.
Yeah. No, it's probably my favorite Victron product, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best ones we have in the suite, the GX range. So I'm pretty passionate about it. But yeah, I agree.
As you will see in this presentation, so I've got behind me a little system setup. I'll just zoom in with my webcam. So that, it's focusing will fix up. This is the servo. This is the GX50 touchscreen. That's a small inverter, an 800. That's a power meter. That's the smart shunt. Here we have a battery. And then I've got an MPPT, in this case a CAN MPPT, so it connects via CAN cable to a tank sender, which is not necessarily needed when you're using a servo with a fake tank. I use a potentiometer. And then the servo itself is got connected to it, a little light, which somehow doesn't connect to a relay, but I might have made a wiring mistake, or cable come loose yesterday. Switch to fake an alarm, like a door alarm or something like that. Temperature sensor to measure the temperature in the room. Potentiometer again to fake the input from a tank sender. So it's a resistive sender. Yeah, that's the setup behind me. Then the beauty of the GX device too is it has a screen which is pretty small, but you can also go to it via, if you just type the HTTP address of the system into a browser. So the TV behind me, if I swap in between, that might actually be handy for later on when explaining things. Yeah, so that's basically serving to the HTTP address of that site behind me. So this is what it's doing at the moment. So you see that I've got the grid on. I can turn a light on, then you'll see that the loads will be more. 7 watts, that's more or less the energy wasted in the system, I would say. That's how much the system consumes. PV charge is not having PV because I'm indoor. Anyway, so that's sort of the big... So I can show all sort of things relating to this as well. So should people have specific questions afterwards, just let me know and I can demonstrate things if need be. Well, I might as well start with the presentation. I'll do a share screen. I'm getting quicker and quicker with this. Yeah, so if you can make me the spotlight, I don't know. So, oh, wait. Oh, no, that's already, it's good. I'll just make sure that the recording happens properly. Yeah.
It should be right now, I think.
Yeah, it's all good. What I see. Well, what I see, I figured out is what being recorded. So, yeah. So, webinar. So, the GX device. Well, basically, that's the link in between a system and you. The systems can be really, really complicated, can contain a lot of stuff. You put a color control in, or a GX device, or a servo, and then the whole system is being reduced basically to your little display, and that's what you see, and you're happy with it because you don't need to read all parameters from everything individually. It gives you in a really quick glance how the system works. Kai, for instance, is a big Kai used to be he worked with one of our distributors. He installed a lot of systems. And he basically says, stick one in the system so the customer knows what the system is doing. So if you see all of a sudden the solar power stops, then you know there's a problem. You get an alarm, batteries are empty, batteries are full. If you turn the kettle on, how much does it use? Well, exactly, you can see that straight on the display. So this is a really easy way, and also for people that have relatively little knowledge, immediately see what's going on in the system. So that's it is an upsell. Sell them at cost even if you want to, but if you think it's needed. But it gives you so much entry into the system, so you can eventually look in as an installer, the end user can look in, we as Victron can look in, we can help out with a problem. You can do remote setting changes via the internet. There's a world of possibilities. It's not just a system display. It's got a lot of things behind it as well. Well, if you're connected to the internet, you remotely log into your system. So then you have your phone. So you can use the phone, and that will tell you everything. You can log in from a computer. Like for instance, I've got a system in my garage. I'm at home. Sun is shining. I'm curious to see how much energy I'm generating. I do not walk to the garage. Why should I? Especially at the Corona time and doing no exercise. I'm gaining fast weight. But yeah, you do it on the phone because it's silly to go somewhere where you have it just in your hand already or lying on the table next to you. So that's the beauty of it. And it's each time especially also making this presentation, each time I see it again, and this is me being sales perhaps, but I'm really impressed to how far we've come, what we can all do it. And I'm thinking well beyond what our competitors do. And it's such a small unit, can have so much functionality. It's pretty amazing. So the GX devices. First, we started in 2013 with a color control. Then in 17 came the Venus. So I've got some here. So this is the color control in its housing. So the color control by itself looks like this. So color control back. So got all connections on it. Then we came with the Venus. This is here. It looks a bit like the Servo, but a square Servo. Yeah, all the connections are on the side. The Venus. Then we came out with the Octo. Shortly after, the Octo is DIN rail mountable. This is an Octo. It's got DIN rail at the back. You click it in. It's got Wi-Fi on board and all sort of other things. They all have slight different uses, which I will explain later. Then we came out with the CanView GX because people wanted a touchscreen and wanted waterproofness. This is one here. I really shouldn't drop it. It's massive. It's pretty impressive. CanView. Then people wanted to be able to connect 25 MPPT via direct solar charges to a GX. So we came out with a special unit called the Maxi GX, where you can, but this is really something for really large systems, and there's other ways about it as well now. It is a bit of an interim product before we had the Servo and before we had the CAN bus MPPT. Then in 2000 last year, we brought out multis with GX built in. So that also saves you a lot of install, extra wiring. And then in 2020, we came out with the Servo. The Servo should have been readily available by now, but because of the coronavirus, or production facility in Malaysia had lockdown, they're slowly restarting again. The first thing they did was starting on building Servos, because that's Matthijs's, yeah, one of the things we really wanted to get out there fast. So, and I think the trickling down, we had a few really early ones. I think one batch of maybe 20 or something in Australia in January, I think. And then everyone had to wait till April, May. And now I will get one, because this one I have here to borrow from a colleague, from Chris, but mine is on the way as we speak. So other people would have gotten probably Servos pretty soon as well. I would have seen the link that something is on the way. So what does a GX device do? So like I said already, it provides local monitoring via its display. It provides internet connectivity into your system for remote monitoring. So you can do it local, but also remotely. It can make system alarms. You can change settings of products that are connected. You can log data via an SD card. Yeah, also online, but also via a card if you want indefinite data logging. more or less, or via USB stick. Implement global system values, so you can set state of charge for a whole system. You can deal with maximum charge currents. You can do voltage sense, and it can share that among all the products connected to it. And it can act as an interface for a third-party monitoring system, such as NAMA 2000 or Modbus, and some other bits and pieces. That's getting sort of, I've decided not to spend too much time on that myself, but we definitely have the knowledge within Victron. So if you need help with these sort of things, let us know. And you can connect to third-party equipment like PV inverters, like Fronius, SMA, energy meters, solar irradiance meters, Fisher Panda generator. So there's certain products that connect readily into our GX devices, and then you see the information on the screen from those products as well. And many, many more options possible as well. So system display. So whatever you plug in, it will be displayed. So the system behind me, I've got an inverter. I don't know if people can see. Inverter is there. Your AC input, AC input, output. Battery comes, and the data from the battery in my case comes from a battery monitor, the smart shunt. And I've got a DC PV inverter, PV MPPT connected. So whatever you plug in, you will see. So I've got some screenshots of other systems, like if you have a Fronius, if you have a PV inverter on the input or on the output. If you have a DC system in there, like if you have a boat, you want to also know what DC is doing, how much is going into that DC system. All that will be like visible, really easy. Now I'm going through the different GX models. So color control, that's what it looks like. And the screen front has got a screen. The back has got all the connections on it. Yeah, it all speaks for itself. It's got CAN bus connections for CAN products, VBus for the multis and the quadros. MPPT and battery monitors connected via direct connectors. Ethernet to do wired internet, Wi-Fi, only possible via a little dongle, which looks like, got my dongle here, whole pile of stuff. So many bits with wires. Yeah, so you have to put a little dongle thing in. We only connect to one type. We have the drivers built in for it, so we sell them at near cost on our website anyway. So they're really tiny, and we have a bigger for long range as well. All those things need power, so you need to connect it to a battery or to some other DC power supply. It can be a quite big power supply, so it can be usually, in this case, in between 8 and 70 volts DC. Yeah, one thing not used. At the bottom, there's a slot where the micro SD card sits in. So if you use an enclosure, we also have an optional enclosure. All that stuff. This is one. Enclosure, like so. Make sure that when you put the color control in, that you align this recess with the SD card slot, so you can put that in. And there's also a trick that Kai might want to tell you about with the USB cable. I don't know, Kai, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So because you've got it all there very handy, there's a few things to know about this. So that's a little USB extension cable. So when this system's normally
with the box,
yeah, when this system's normally installed and mounted on the wall, it's not possible easily for a customer or anyone else really to access the ports at the back. So they're intended to be like permanently fixed and connected, and that's it. But there is the situation where you might want to access the USB port. Like for instance, you can use the USB to plug in a USB thumb drive, like a little memory stick in there, and then the Venus GX or the GX device can save data to that USB thing if the thing isn't connected to the internet. So for that to be useful to a customer, we include a little accessory extension cable there. And that accessory cable, the one that Marguerite's got there, the blue one, can actually, it's long enough to be connected to the USB and fed through the bottom and out there, but still be obscured. So the female can, I'll let you show it for a second.
Yeah, so basically what you do is you plug the thing in the back. It has a flat side, so it doesn't get that long. So the right angle connector goes in the back, and this one it's got like little mounting holes in the bottom.
Yep, it hangs out the bottom.
Yeah, but with a little bracket. So you screw the bracket open, feed the cable through, and then all the other cables, of course, as well. And then just let that bit sort of just hang below. That if you need to access,
Now, one other thing to be careful of there, though, the mounting section where the cable screws into the bottom of that housing, it can be tighter than the cable diameter, right? Not that bit. No, if you hold it up, the little bit that holds the cable there.
I might unscrew it 1 sec.
Maybe. It's possible to pinch the USB cable if you screw that too tightly. So don't over tighten that port. Just put it enough there. It doesn't have to be very tight at all, really, because it's held in place by the length of the cable. Just enough to sort of keep it in rough position. Over tightening that gland entry, for want of a better word, can damage the USB cable. So just be careful of that. While Marguerite's organising that,
it's always longer than you think.
Demonstrate. There's a question in the chat by Alex asking, does Victron supply GPS dongles? Marguerite, are you going to talk about accessories?
Yeah,
great. We'll get to it.
So this is that little. This is what it looks like without that whole thing in.
Yep. So and that kind of clamps down on it.
Yeah, and that sort of makes a hole like a diameter to fit normal cables, and this cable is slightly bigger.
Yeah.
So if I hold
something to be careful of. All right. Anyway, I think that's
it's sort of. Yeah.
I think we've made the point, so you can probably move on a bit. Yeah.
Okay. All the screws are falling around. Yeah. Then because not everyone needs a screen, and a screen costs money as well. So a lower cost option is the Venus GX. It's got more connections. We introduced, for instance, temperature sensor connections in this. We introduced color control's got 1 relay. The Venus has got 2 relays. It's got digital inputs. It's usually mounted inside a system cabinet. Quite often systems are somewhere where you can't access them anyway. And then if you want to read them out, you either use the Victron app, the VRM app. I think that's not being used much anymore. Now Victron Connect. Or you just basically surf straight to its HTTP address like me. So you can get like a really cheap industrial type panel. I think Kai knows which one to use. You just type HTTP address in and you can see that system here. That's
so I'll pop it in the chat as well, but if you type venus.local, that's https:/venus-local, and I'll post the link so you can see. It's also in the manual.
Yeah, but also if you just put the HTTP address, and that can be found in the settings of the device. So you can actually, I can, if I click on my computer, see it actually, my computer I have it connected to is a touch screen, so I can actually use a really big screen. Could be good also if you have a showroom, if you want a really nice display. But there's other ways of doing that now. This is a roundabout way. Get a servo in that case. But anyway, so that's what the Venus looks like. Then we came out with the Octo. Octo is like a Venus, so it has no screen. It has your usual VIA bus, VIA CAN ports. It has digital input. It has a power connection. It has not isolated CAN bus. So that's for connecting a smart battery to. So smart battery to one CAN and then the other CAN, the CAN products. So you have more choices there. Also the Venus has that. You have 10 VIA Direct ports, so a lot more. So you can do a whole lot of those VIA Direct MPPTs on there. You can see. And it's got built-in Wi-Fi. That's why it's got an aerial. So it's a nice beefy aerial, good Wi-Fi as well. So no need for dongle. SD card can go in. So if you access the inside, that's done by opening it's got like a little lid. So it's got all the local password as well for setting it up. So you connect to it, connecting to its Wi-Fi. Then you see the remote console. You can navigate through all the menus, set it up. Disconnect, tell it the name of the big Wi-Fi it needs to connect to the site's Wi-Fi, close it again, and then One note about Wi-Fi, sometimes it's actually better to use Ethernet cables, especially if it's an industrial system. Wi-Fi is not, or can really secure Wi-Fi things. Wi-Fi can be moody, can be off. And if it's a mission critical system, then consider doing it via normal Ethernet cable to a router. So the via direct port here, and all the other ports there. The Octo. Oh yeah, another thing, this is a faster CPU than the Venus and the color control have. So basically Venus and color control the slowest, then come the Octo and the Venus is also faster. Anyway, we have a really good overview list on our website as well, which I'll show later. The CanView GX, well, this unit was, yeah, it's basically a ready-made pen, panel with a whole lot of connectors at the back. You can't do anything. This is one purchase. You always need to purchase the wiring kit with it. Otherwise, you can't connect anything Victron. So this is the wiring kit. So it's got your VE bus connection, VE direct. On the other side, it has a relay. It has digital input not in use and common. Then we have CAN through here. And all these connectors, like this, connect into the back of this panel. So here. So these two are together, and then it becomes quite an expensive panel. But it has full-on IP67 rating waterproofing. You can mount this on the helm of your boat. It can splash water on it, all no problem. So it's a really rugged, extreme waterproof panel. Now, I don't know what the waterproof rating is of our new Serbo panel, but I'm still trying to find out from Victron.
Yeah, it hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, but if it's an extreme install, go with this one, I would say. But it's expensive. The Maxi GX, well, really, if you need 25 VE direct ports, get this. It has a really fast CPU. It's faster than the color controller, the Venus GX. It has the same size CPU that also the GX multis have. It is a quite big cabinet. It's I think it's about that big. Like it's not a small thing. But yeah, for a really large system, that's where you gather all the data into. Then we have now multis with GX built in, but there are a lot of limitations with this. It has a fast CPU, but it has only it has CAN ports, for instance, but CAN ports can only be used for managed battery, cannot be used for our MPPTs or other CAN products. So CAN is really only there for the smart battery, like a BYD or something like that. One USB port. It has one VE direct port. So it's really basic. It's really just meant for a small dedicated system where you don't want a separate color control. And that's really nice and handy. Then the last one, or the newest one, the Serbo GX, or the one behind me. It's a faster CPU than the color controller of Venus. It has comes as this unit, and then optional is the display. So that's what behind me here. The display looks like, that's all live, so it's sort of, yeah, it's good. This is the display. It has a cable attached to the back of it, and on the other side of the display you'll find it has a HDMI and a USB cable, which needs to, USB is for power to the display, and HDMI is the signal. So that means also that the Serbo has a HDMI output. So you can actually, the TV behind me, now it's talking to a website, but it could also be talking straight to the Serbo. So you can plug your TV in there. But I did notice that you let, I think it self-detects what's connected. So if you go from TV back to the small panel, you see a really large picture, like, or part of it. So you need to reboot the Venus, and then it will redetect the new screen. And another optional extra is 2 little plastic brackets that if you screw that on the Serbo, it becomes DIN rail mountable. So the DIN kit, or I don't know what it's actually called. Yeah. But I'll explain much more about all the different features. This is an overview of all the products. So So all the different color control, Venus, blah, blah, blah. And then all the differences in between. So whether it has a display or not, wireless communication, yeah, does it have Wi-Fi built in or not, relay. Serbo also has Bluetooth in there. Helps you with setting it up. I was just totally surprised when I set my Venus Serbo up, how quick it was. I just went to the Victron Connect app, saw in the local devices via the Bluetooth the Serbo already, clicked on it. It asked me to put in my network details. I gave it the password of my Wi-Fi network and then clicked on it again, went to remote console via that, and it was so easy. It already said, do you want to list it on VRM? You click on it, and then it already goes to you have to tell it your login for VRM, but Victron Connect should know that anyway. If you've used that feature already, which has been released a little while ago, then it automatically goes to VRM, does it almost for you. Like this was, and I've installed that whole timeline from 2013 to now. I've installed them all, but this was, yeah, so problem-free. It was really, really easy to install the Serbo. USB, yeah, different number of ports via direct. Normally you have 2 or 3 or 10 or 25 via direct ports, and then you can also use the USB to via direct cable to connect to these ports. At the cable here somewhere there. So that's this cable. So USB on one side, this is the new. We actually had an updated cable, never even realized, and already had new ones. We used to have the USB connected onto a little dongle, but sometimes this fell apart. That's the via direct. So this is the USB to via direct interface, and you can connect this to an MPPT and then plug it into a USB port if you run out of via direct ports. Now this is the new one, where you have the USB cable with a little bit of distance and then that little block, and that's smaller as well. So slightly smaller, see. So that's a nice thing I never even realized we had. Sometimes we bring out or change things or make it better without even telling. So that's this was an impressive. It's a lot smaller, lot easier to use, much easier to put into back of a color control, because if you put this in the back of a color control, you don't have much space anymore in that box if you try to put everything in. So that's also one of the reasons we changed to this. Built-in tank level. So some units have it built in, some other units don't. So you need to do it via tank sender. CAN bus, how many of it and what type insulated. The isolated ones are the CAN ones. The non-isolated, you can use them for smart batteries, but not for Victron CAN products. Temperature sensor connectors, well, the Venus and the Serbo have that. RS485, the Octo has one, especially for it. Otherwise, you need to use a interface from RS485 to USB. Digital inputs, but you can use it to do door alarms and all sort of other inputs. And then at the bottom, I've put the list price ex GST Australian at the bottom, just to give you an idea how much they all cost. Yeah, the color control is $885. If you would go to a finer Venus, it cost $505, so that's a big saving there, but no screen. Well, go Serbo. Serbo is $555. If you want the screen as well, that means you have to add $421 to that. The Octo, $523. The Maxi is $3,200, so that is a really large price, but that's for really large systems. CAN View is already $1,444 plus $355 for the control kit. They always come together, so that makes it a beefy purchase. So, but the Serbo screen has a certain amount of waterproofness as well. I would at least say it's maybe 65, I think, like something like that, but we don't know for sure yet. Yeah, so that becomes a lot cheaper than the CAN View, for instance. And if you buy a Multi-Plus or Easy Solar GX, you have to pay $505 more than a regular multi or regular Easy Solar for the. And as you can see, that's the price of a Venus, so that's our cheapest one in the lot. So we don't make you pay that much extra for this functionality. So it's the same price, but it's all in one, and it saves you install. That saves you money that way already. Yeah, accessories. These are the enclosures. That's the one we just saw. That's the front view of it. We also have one for the color control where there's a hole for the BMV because the color control itself does not calculate state of charge. It will take that from a device connected to it. So smart batteries connected to it, or the multi can calculate via bus state of charge, or you connect the battery monitor. And in case you connect the battery monitor, you then have a spot to put it. This again confuses a lot of people. Why two monitors? So that's why we came out with a smart shunt where you have no display anymore. So you just use this box and put the smart shunt in there where no one sees it. Wi-Fi dongles, two types to make Wi-Fi. They're both USB dongles. This goes straight into the USB port, and this one comes with a little cable for a USB port. And this is what the real one looks. It's got a clip you can hook it onto somewhere. If your system is in a metal enclosure, make sure that this is on the outside of the metal enclosure. Faraday's, you can't get radio signals through. So this is the aerial goes all the way, so you can put it in.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well. If you've got a shed that and the internet connection's outside the shed, it's also possible to remove the aerial from that unit. So you have the USB, non-IP rated unit inside the shed, and then have an external IP rated aerial outside the shed and wire the cable in through the shed to connect to that.
Yeah, these are standard sort of antenna connections, those screw terminals or whatever you call them. That's that one. Then we have a tank sender, CAN bus tank sender. I've got one in the system behind me. That's not a cheap. I forgot to look up the price. It's not so cheap. It actually would pay for you to get a servo instead of use this tank sender. It's not cheap, but sometimes people just it works out that way. If you only use tank senders, you need to use a power adapter as well, which is that little thing there. But if you have other CAN products in your system, like a Skylar I or CAN MPPT, then you don't need the power adapter. But more on this later. Then we have a GPS module. A GSM GPS module, which looks like this. I don't know the status. It works on Optus, so I've got a little Optus card in there. This is mine. I haven't plugged it in currently. I haven't done it for a while. So it has an aerial. This is what you get if you buy that. And then you can get two extensions on that. You can get a extended cable. You could perhaps even connect this one, I reckon. It looks like a waterproof cable antenna to me. Kai, would you be able to connect this to your...
Is that the GPS antenna though?
No, this is the extended mobile antenna.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for the mobile antenna, yes. There's a GPS one as well.
This little blip. So this is the extended antenna for if you have bad reception, you can put this on the outside of your building. And then this is the GPS antenna. It's also an optional extra. Is it magnetic? Yeah, it is. I've got to make look, a screwdriver sticks to it. Yeah. So you can stick this on the top of your roof of your fan if you want to know where all the vehicles are of your fleet, for instance, or your boat, or put that all in here. Now there's other options with GPS as well, which I'll go through later. But if you need mobile phone internet, and that's only 3G, not 4G, not 5. People in Europe that were burning 5G masks down, thinking you get coronavirus from it. But yeah, crazy stuff. 3G, and I think it's only Optus at the moment. Kai?
So I'm muted. Yes. So I posted a link in the chat which has the manual reference for that GX GSM unit. So at the moment, it's only Optus that works. Yep. We are releasing a new model of that product. Again, coronavirus impacted, that increases the number of frequencies that unit can access. So keep an eye on the Victron professional mailing list for when that new unit becomes available that will support the Telstra regional frequencies, which is what most people want. But Optus network's not terrible in Australia now. It's better than it once was, and it's worth a try as an option.
Yeah, so because I have an Optus phone, I thought I might as well get an extra SIM card. So all my customers say, yeah, it works, no problem. And little did I know that I happen to have the only carrier that works. Yeah, so that's but it is handy. And once you connect it to a color control or servo or whatever, if you look at the screen, it will have a little signal strength symbol there as well. So you can actually see whether it's actively working and about the single strength is same as your phone little symbol. So that's the GPS and GSM module. Then the next thing here is that's the extended kit for the CAN view. So that's not even an optional extra, that is a required extra. The GX touchscreen, that's an optional extra. So you can use the Serbo as a standalone device if you don't need a screen, but if you do want a screen, then use that screen. This is the DIN rail for the Serbo, and then temperature sensors can be used in the Venus and in the Serbo, and these are regular temperature sensors, same as that are shipped with the multi Quattros. If you are a distributor of ours, you probably have a pile of them lying around, especially if you're repairing things or replacement. I end up with more and more. I don't know where they're coming from. If you need them, you can order them. They have a part number as well, or use the ones lying around. And now, Kai, you mentioned you were doing something with temperature sensors. Is the BMV temperature sensor possible as well, officially?
No.
No, it's a different.
No.
So the BMV temperature sensor, same as this, but has a blue heat shrink rubber thing on, and it has a yellow tag, and it specifically says BMV temperature sensor. The data from the BMV temperature sensor can be used via the BMV, but it always has to be connected to a BMV. And if you go directly to the Serbo, you have to use one of these. And yeah, the cable, sometimes you get, it's a really long cable attached to it. It's probably 2 or 3 meters almost. If you make it longer, that's also fine. But eventually, if you make it super, super long, you will start losing. But it's got 75 mil square wire, which is quite beefy. So if you need a bit of a distance, it probably would work. Don't know exactly how long, but yeah. So this is one of Kai's drawings. This is beautiful. This is really what's sort of behind me, but then neatly drawn. And I've got less behind me than is in.
You got most of it.
Yeah, I've got a lot. But yeah, it really depicts on yeah, how to connect it all and how to interconnect. So the Serbo, if you turn it around, because mine is connected, I won't touch it, but it has, as you can see here and there, it has all the connections on the side. It's got little nice little connectors which are easy to use. Yeah, it's a nice nice comprehensive unit, and it sits. I'm surprised how well the cables slot in, and they sit really neat. Less wobbly than the Venus sometimes. Looked always a bit more messy on the Venus, and it had on all 4 sides on the Venus. This just has the top and the bottom. Handy if you put it in a DIN rail again. But I go into all the different parts of that big schematic in detail. So these are the Victron products. I'll just call them the blue things. So we either connect with VE Bus, VE CAN, or VE Direct. These are different protocols, and a protocol is a data protocol. That's a different language. So you can't put a VE Bus unit into a VE CAN slot. It won't talk, because that slot, I mean, the port for that does not listen to that particular language. So they need to match. VE Direct is easy because it can only fit into one hole. You can't put that. You might want to try it, force it down the USB port, but won't fit. But with VE CAN, VE Bus, people do sometimes make a mistake, plug them in the wrong way around. It's the same RJ45 cable for both, only VE CAN, you need a terminator. So the first or the last thing in the string needs a terminator, but a bit more about that. VE Bus. So VE Bus is really, the color control is meant to talk to one inverter charger system. So they can be a single unit, or this can be a multiple of units set up in parallel 3-phase combination, but it's one system. So you have the Victron system here, one or multiple units, they all interconnect, and then the last or the first one goes to the color control, and that's one system. So you can't connect the 2 individual multiplexers. You will need 2 color controls for that, because the idea behind color, I keep saying color control, it can also be Serbo. The idea behind this, that there's one GX device per system, is because you're monitoring that system, and you don't have 2 inverters in there. It's inverter is the heart of the system. That's why the picture behind me, you'll see that this is always in the middle. So that's the way it is. With RJ45 cables, only use manufactured cables. Don't make them yourself. It has led to too many issues, communication and interconnecting multis, and there's a lot of data that goes through to make it work correctly. And if there's a hiccup somewhere, then the whole system stops, because again, it's at the heart of the system. You can still use your regular control panel, your old-fashioned control panel. Let's say you want to have a little panel somewhere and a screen, or a servo where you have no screen, you just want control panel. But you can only turn the unit off from one device. So that's either from the control panel. As soon as you plug a control panel, the control panel will turn the multis off, not the color control anymore. Although it has a setting that you can turn it off, but that's then disabled and the control panel will do it for you. Same as with the AC input current limit. There's also one device that decides that. VIA Direct, that's, yeah, like I explained already with the dongles. So you either have a VIA Direct cable, cable here, yeah, cable, VIA Direct cable. So we have them two types, with right angles, with straight, or with right angle and straight on the other side. This you can't really get into a servo, I found out, because I brought the wrong cable. I wanted to connect one more MPPT behind, but yeah, I couldn't be bothered driving back to my locker garage. So that's VIA Direct cable. This is point to point. The maximum distance is 10 meters and can't be longer with this cable. If longer, then you'll start losing data, and you get strange readings. Interference will start to happen. It's point to point, so each device needs to connect to the unit. If you run out of USB ports, you can also use a powered USB hub, for instance. You can use these USB to VIA Direct cables, but there is a limit to how many they can. The more you connect, the more busier the color control or the servo or whatever is going to be. So yeah, you can't call unlimited. That's why I've also made that maxi, because it has a bigger processor in there, so it can talk to more units at once. It chews up a fair bit of processing speed from the microprocessor. But we have a solution for that anyway. So if you need to go longer, some people need to go longer. I can consider and this is mainly in the case of solar chargers. You have maybe the panel in your house and your system in the shed. You can't run a VIA Direct cable in between the shed and the house, because that's beyond 10 meters. Then go to CAN bus MPPT. But another way about it is to use an active USB cable that amplifies the signal, and then you can go longer distance. But it's better to do a CAN bus MPPT. And that's what this is. So these RJ45 cables, so the VIA bus and the CAN bus, can be up to 100 meters long. It's proper shielded cable. It's got twisted pair inside, so it doesn't suffer from interference so much. So you can go, yeah, really long. So yeah, and you can interconnect all these devices. And the only thing is with VIA CAN, the first and the last unit needs a terminator, and the terminators look like this. They're just little RJ45 connectors, but with plastic at the back. And what's inside here is an 180 ohms from top of my head. One little, I don't know, you can't quite see it. There's a little resistor inside. Terminator. So anything VIA CAN you buy will have a little bag with two terminators in it. So if you have a color control, you buy a color control or GX device, you get two terminators. If you buy a CAN device like the MPPT or Scalar I or Link Shunt, will also have a little bag with two terminators in it. You can also buy them separately, if in case you lose them or you want some spares. But you always, again, like the temperature sensor, you always end up with more of these than you realize you had. They're slowly growing in my case, but I don't install. Just display and then connect for research purposes. So yeah, they need to be in, otherwise it doesn't work. What else? That's one thing. Yeah, I forgot.
Marguerite, there was a quick question in the chat. I didn't hear you say it, but Nicholas asked, are you saying you're using shielded or unshielded UTP cables?
Shielded is always better. What we have is unshielded. It's just RJ45 and aluminium or whatever material it is, shield. But if you do shielded, you can go longer, less interference, I suppose. So there's different categories, Cat 5, Cat, yeah. So
Yeah,
our
up to
own
Cat
cable
7.
is, yeah, our own is unshielded from memory, but it's better when it's shielded, yeah. So
Yeah, we only go up to 30 meters as well, which I think is fine for unshielded. But if you go longer and longer,
yeah, eventually you'll get interference, and you get voltage drop even in those cables. It's again reason why you wanna, maybe you can actually go quite long. The 30 meters is a lot, so that's and 100 is even longer. Yeah, but the further you go shielded eventually. But buy manufactured cables. Don't do it yourself. It's hard. Yeah. Terminators. Yeah. Then once it's all hooked up and you've got everything in, then you need to connect your color control, and then you need to set it up. So you either need to have it connecting to the internet, either to access its menu, or you need to connect it to Bluetooth if it's a servo, but it needs to connect to the internet eventually. Now there are many ways. So you can do via local area network, LAN cable, so your normal Ethernet cable, or Wi-Fi. So that's these top two things. So you either plug the unit with the actual cable in the Ethernet plug into the router, and the router connects to the internet, or you do it via Wi-Fi. If that's not available, then there's several options. You can use that GX GSM unit. You can get a 3 or 4G router from a local provider, so that's possible as well. Or even if it's a really hobby system, you can do the hotspot of your phone, for instance. So, and also what the unit will keep data for a certain amount of time. And if you put an SD card in it, it will keep data for longer. As soon as it sees the internet, it will throw all that data into the internet, and then you can still access stuff that while the unit was unconnected to the internet, you can see that in between. For instance, your boat, you take it out, there's no mobile phone coverage. While you're going, you come back, it sees mobile phone again because you have one of those options, or you connect to your Wi-Fi somehow, and then all of a sudden it will push all the data away, puts it into VRM, so you can still see what the system was doing while you were taking the boat out. Same as with blackouts, the NBN network, which turns off non-stop at night, because I've got a no data alarm going on my VRM, so I get an email as soon as the data is lost. So it's actually really surprising how often they mess around with the internet at night. Yeah, so that's possible. You get your little strength symbol. So you see your Wi-Fi symbol. When it's connected successfully to Wi-Fi, you should see that. If you don't see it, there's an issue. And also, if you have the GSM module, you also get that little mobile strength signal. So here are all your options to go to. So you go to the menu and then find Wi-Fi, Ethernet, whatever option. HDMI cable. So this is only the servo. Maybe future models, I don't know if Matthijs is thinking of the next one after servo already. You never know. But anyway, so there's a HDMI port on it. So you can connect your Touch 50 panel to the HDMI port. And the fact that we call it Touch 50 also seems to, Kai might know that, are there plans of other panels as well?
yeah, actually quite advanced production. So there's going to be different size displays.
Yeah, because calling it Touch 50 immediately, you can taste that more are on the way. So the panel needs power, so that's the reason it has a USB cable. It's actually attached to the cable, so it comes as, can't really see that good in the photo, but it comes off the main cable as one sealed up unit. But you can also just plug the servo into whatever other display, as long as it's got a HDMI port. So I've managed to successfully, first thing I didn't even connect it to the panel, I put straight in the TV and it worked without any problem. And that's also the sign of newer stuff. In the old days, you had to know more, but now it becomes far more plug and play. It becomes easier for the installers. And it was a breeze how to connect this servo to the internet and to the VRM. That's going to be a big upside for the installer that has relatively little knowledge about how it all works. Other displays can be used as well. So if you have a boat and you have a Raymarine Garmin, if you have one of those multifunctional displays, you can go via the Ethernet cable from the Venus or from the Servo or from whatever else to the ship's router, and that panel connects to the same router, and then the panel will access a special page, HTTP page from the Venus, and will then retrieve the information from it. And I think it's just by typing app behind it, isn't it, Kai? /app. So you take the HTTP address, do /app. Behind me, press enter. And this is what you get on my TV. Oh, right. There is the, that's why now I've turned my TV into an MDDF panel. Yeah. I don't have the full data on there because I don't have so many things on there. But yeah. So that's, and then the beauty is on that MDDF panel, you have in the top remote console. And if I click that, I can actually go to the remote console via the MDDF. So you can, in your panel, you can do exactly the same as what you can do on the touchscreen panel. And it's so easy to set up. You don't need crazy NMA adapters and all sort of other things like you might have in the past. It becomes a lot more simpler. So this is, yeah, it's really easy. We've got really good videos online as well that explain this. We have got videos on almost everything of this. We've got good Servo introduction video, other GX devices videos. We have one on this marine integration. So it's getting really good. Yeah, so what you have to do is you have to enable this MQTT on LAN. I had to do that also here to make this happen. So once you do that, then you see that information like that. Next thing, smart batteries. So that's again connecting to third-party products like smart batteries. So BYD, this is mainly the lithium batteries. You can also connect to BYD battery. Sorry, not BYD. Redflow batteries. We have some really good documentation on there as well. Your starting point is always the battery compatibility guide. Click on that and then you see a list of all the different batteries, including Redflow as well, and how to connect that to a Victron system and how to connect that to the GX device. But often for BYD and Parlantech, BMZ, etc., you need a special cable. So it looks like a CAN cable, only this is different. It's the type A or B, and it will have a little label on there, BMS, battery BMS CAN type A. So then you know I can connect this to a BYD. You connect that to the BYD and that goes straight into your multi or into your GX device. Could also be your multi GX. You need to then go into the settings. Is that now automatically, Kai?
Yeah, so sort of.
Yeah.
This part here, the setting of the CAN bus profile to 500 kilobits per second, you still have to do that. The part that's then automatic, once you have set that to be, is DVCC, and all the specific DVCC settings become automatic. So you still have to tell the unit which ones they are. Now, the exception to that is the units that don't support any other type of VE CAN or CAN bus connection. So for instance, the Multiplus 2 GX comes automatically with the 500 kilobits per second because that's all that port supports.
Yeah, and a bit more about DVC later. BYD batteries have changed as well. They don't look the same anymore and stuff like that. But yeah, you get the idea. And the same for the other type of batteries. Then PV inverters, so we can connect if the Fronius, ABB, SMA or Solar Edge is on the same network that the GX device is connected to. You can press a button, press to scan. You go to the PV inverter menu, press to scan, and then it will find all the PV inverters connected to that network. And then you select it, and then you tell it what position in the system it has. Is it connected to the AC input, output, or output 2? So you have to tell it, otherwise if you put it in the wrong spot, you get really weird readings and some strange support calls after that. But yeah, because we don't, not psychics, we don't know exactly where it is. So the PV can be connected there and there or there. So that's what we need to know, and then it puts that into the system properly. Again, we have these links. Click on that and you get all the detailed information on how to set up those inverters. Some inverters, Phoenix and ABB, you can also use the zero feed-in feature, but I'll talk more about this in my ESS presentation, which is further down the line. And another thing to connect to is energy meters. So if you are using a PV inverter that we don't communicate to, or if you want to measure something else like a generator, you can use an energy meter. These are Carlo Carfacci meters. You can buy them from us, but you can also buy them locally from somewhere else. We have the part numbers out there. We can connect to more meters than we necessarily sell. For that, you need an RS485 to USB converter, which is here. So USB on one side, that goes to the color control, and this goes into the power meter. Power meter looks like this. You click this little lid off, then you have the, all the little connections on one side. Oh, that's the wrong side. See, that's the phase side. Neutral side has got the connections. You don't need all of these wires, so 3 of them are not used, 3 are. And I have here one in situ. Yeah. Hopefully everyone can see that. So this is there's the interface, and that goes behind there to the power meter. That's the connections there. And you see the light blinking means it's on. And you see green line blinking here, it's on as well. Power meter needs AC to work. So if I turn AC off, then also the power meter stops. But that's what it should be doing. Yeah, but that's no big deal, because if AC stops or if a grid stops, you know, you have no grid anyway. So grid is 0. Yeah. So the PV meter will then also, it will appear into your color control. You need to set it up. If you you can make this cable again quite long. You can actually go through a shielded cable or to an RJ45 or something, get these wires through twisted pair or something. You can also go longer than, we have 5 and 10 meters of this cable, and you can go longer as that. If you want a wireless solution, then you have to use the Zigbee converters. It's basically the same. This part goes to the GX device with a USB port, and the other part goes into your power meter. There's the 3 wires. And then this half needs to be powered as well. And the trick, because you don't usually have DC power in your switchboard, you would have to put I think I've got one lying around. Well, let's grab one. That's supposed to go into my my system at home, which I might actually have finally time for. You can get DIN mounted power supply, so they connect to the AC and then they make DC, and then, so that's a safe way of doing it. One of those things. It ships with a little adapter, but it has unfortunately a European plug on it. That's a bit, yeah, not so good, of course. Yeah. So it takes anything in between 5 and 28 volts, according to the. And then you set it up. Instructions are on the website, and that's a wireless connection. Energy meters. Yeah, so you go to the menu energy meter, then you decide what role it has, if it's a grid meter or a PV inverter meter, and then say what input it connects to. So that's, yeah, so, and if you don't see it in the list, so it has actually an instance, so you see, yeah, you see a number there. If it's not in the list, then it's not communicating properly. So if it's there, it should be showing up. Maybe cable broken or power issue or something like that. Also, setting the meter up as the wrong meter will really make your system different. So this system is the system I have behind me. I made this screenshot yesterday. I was charging a battery. So I was taking 468 watts from the grid. This was set up as grid meter. It's a bit like double because it was the same as what already came from there. because and this was set as PV meter, and all of a sudden it popped a PV inverter in the screen, which I don't have. The grid went to -13, so it makes really weird readings if you set these meters in the wrong spot. And we've been involved with a lot of service, not a lot, but service calls in the past that people totally don't say, oh, all the numbers are wrong, and they just basically forgot to put a meter or a PV inverter in the wrong spot. This also applies to PV inverters. They can also go wrong. So that has ramifications if you set it wrong. Another thing that we connect to now that's also a recent addition is solar irradiance meters, and we only do the ones from Menke. So if you click on this link, we go to the company. I don't know if they're available in Australia, I assume so, but the Germans are usually good with spreading things out. But Kai, do you know that?
I don't know. I've never seen a supplier in Australia, but the reason they were picked was because they have global distribution. So
yeah. Yeah, why would you want to put one in the system anyway? It is to compare, to check if your panels are still doing the right thing. So make sure that the panels are not dirty, stolen, cable issues, broken panels. So if you all of a sudden see that the solar yield is good, but your panel output is really bad, then there is an issue there. So there could be, again, bigger systems to make sure system maintenance, that everything is working the way it should. It's not just a clouded day. It's it's that the panels were stolen or something like that. Yeah. So it looks at irradiance, but also wind speed and a few other things. And this data is actually visible in VRM. So you can see your wind, your solar, and temperature monitoring. It is pretty neat for the bigger system, I would say, or the control freak. Tank sensors via VCAN. So tanks, and these are different tanks. It can be gray water tank, drink water tank, fuel tank. There's a lot of tanks. Both have got tanks, but also off-grid sites might have a water tank. Maybe it's a farmer doing irrigation. They need to pump from a river into a tank and then out to the field. And yeah, so we can sense tanks. So you can do it via tank sender. That is for if you don't have your non-turbo, basically, you need this tank sender. Tank sender is not all that cheap, but it works quite well, and it connects with CAN bus. And you need one sender. What's it called again? It's the tank. Yeah, the tank sender adapter. You need one adapter per tank sender. So tank sender is the resistive element in the tank. So full tank is a certain resistance, empty tank is the other resistance. There are two standards in the world, the European and the US standard. European 1 to 180 ohms and the US one from 240 to 30 ohms. Yeah, so, and that's what I've done here with this system. I think I can actually go there. If I go to my system list and then go up.
Can you just pop your head back a little bit? That's
oh yeah, fuel tank. So that is this one. So if I twist that knob, yeah, you see the tank changed to 38 all of a sudden in place of 81. So now I'm faking a resistive sender. So you can play around like that, but normally you connect it to a real sender. If you have just tank senders and no other devices like a Skylar I or an MPPT, then you need to put a power cable in because the CAN network needs power, and this is the power cable. So it's an two VCAN ports, so you plug it in and then this goes to power. With a fuse, of course, and then yeah, it's easy. Logic. But if you have the servo, you can go straight to those senders, and you can connect up to 4 units. So once you put it in, you determine what type of tank it is. You have to tell the unit that, so you get a nice, especially if you have 4 tanks, you probably have 4 different fluids in those tanks, so you want to tell what it is. So wastewater, clean water, fuel. And then to set it up, you can actually tell how big the tank is when it's full and that sort of thing. So you put you set it up properly, and you then put volumes in and things like that. Yeah. A pretty neat addition. And then again, with the tank settings, so these are the settings you use. Yeah. So with this, you can then also drive, we have relays in the unit, and they can also work, drive a pump. So you can say tank empty, start pump, because now I'm pumping water from the river or the lake back into my tank, or wastewater out, the opposite. Yeah, that sort of things. Temperature sensors, again, like I said already, these are the regular temperature sensors that also ship with quadros and inverters. Not quadros and multis. There's 4 options, so 4 of them you can connect. You can also connect again to other temperature sensors that are already in products. So for instance, the smart shunt or the BMV, you can connect the temperature sensor to, that will also become available in VRM. You can you read out the temperature, so see what temperature it is. But you also, at the moment it's 17. Yeah, you can see it there on the screen, 17. Hope you can see it, I don't know, yeah. So you can assign roles to these temperature sensors. You can say, look, I'm looking at the battery temperature or temperature of refrigeration or a generic one. So you tell what type it is. And then you can team this up with alarms in VRM and things like that. So you get an email if the refrigerator is above 10 degrees or 4 degrees or something like that. So yeah, all your frozen fish on the boat doesn't go off, and that sort of things. Digital inputs. These are digital inputs can be a switch, but can also be a value, as far as I know. So you can just do simple door alarm switch. So here I've got a little switch on there. If I click, is it in the list? It will access it from the. I've got my door. I think it's at the top. Sorry. No, I can. But anyway, so if someone opens the door, then you can do. Yeah, you can see what's happening. You can get an alarm based on that and that sort of thing. So burglar alarm, smoke alarm. See how often people went into the site. Yeah, generator start stop. I mean, has stopped. A lot of different scenarios you can think of.
There's a question, Marguerite, in
yeah.
the chat, asking, is it possible to change the name of individual temperature sensors?
Now, I don't think it is actually. I think you only have 3 choices, which is battery, fridge, or generic. And they have names, the number 1, 2, 3, and 4, as far as I know, unless you know more.
I don't know more.
Yeah. We can give it a try afterwards, if you like. Yeah. NAMA 2000. The GX device now also, and this is one of the more recent firmware updates, acts as an NAMA 2000 interface. So if you have a Victron system and you connect that to NAMA 2000, you can get data sent from the Victron system to the NAMA 2000 system. So that could be AC input current limit setting, is the inverter on or off, that sort of parameters could be sent. In the old days, you needed an NAMA interface for each product you had. So if you had a multi in there, you need a VIA bus to NAMA 2000 interface. If you had a battery monitor in there, you needed a VIA direct to NAMA 2000 interface. And that is now all scrapped. So what we have done is we made the GX device as the interface. So the GX device gathers the information from the Victron system and sends that to the NAMA system. And there's also some back traffic possible. So now you don't need all those interfaces anymore. You only need one. And that's this interface that goes from VECAN to NAMA 2000. And then it's all done and dusted then. So it just sends all the different registers out and the NAMA 2000 network reads that. That needs to be enabled, of course, into a little menu. And yeah, read up on the internet a bit how it all works. I'm not a NAMA 2000 expert myself.
Yeah, Matthias himself is writing this documentation, so he's implemented this feature and driven it forward, and he's updating it daily. So The latest data on the latest information about the NMEA 2000 support, I'll post a link in the chat. But it's still, even though the feature's been rolled out, the documentation of the feature is still being done.
Yeah, but it's a nice feature if you're using it, because those individual cables, they were a bit of a nightmare. And also it means that you can't use, because if you have the VIA bus to NMA interface, you could not perhaps even use a color control in the system, or on Venus or a GX device. Yeah, I'm so used to saying color control, it's bad.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of the habit. Marguerite, there's a question in the chat from Nicholas saying, do you need to use a fuse on NMEA 2000?
Do I need to
use a fuse?
Yes, it has a fuse in there. This is the fuse.
The question's more on those cables. Everyone comes with a fuse. So if you're connecting Victron gear, you can leave the fuse in. But if you're connecting other NMEA 2000 gear, you're powering the 2000 bus in multiple points.
Oh, I don't quite get that question.
So with that NMEA 2000 cable, each one has a fuse which is powering the CAN bus.
Yeah.
So if you have 5 chargers, you got 5 power connections to power the NMEA 2000 bus. And if you connect that to the ship's NMEA 2000 with GPS heading, then the whole bus is powered from the Victron gear, not by the 2000 supply. So the question I get asked a lot is, do I leave them in or do I leave them out from people? When I'm doing a 2000 network that connects to the boat, I take them out. I cut those fuse holders out.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me too. If you've got an independently powered NMEA 2000 network, you wouldn't try and power it from our system.
But what this is about is really it's only one connection in this case. You need this cable to connect the GX device to the whole NMEA 2000. So now you put all your VIA CAN stuff on our bus, and then put this in to go to the NMEA 2000 network. So in this case, you will have only one fuse again.
No, but then you're still powering the bus from all the Victron gear.
Yeah,
every Victron charger has a power supply.
Yeah.
If you've got an independent supply of power to the NMEA 2000 bus, you don't put multiple ones in. I wouldn't think. I don't think that's. I'm not experienced in it, so take my advice with a grain of salt. But I'd say just having the one would be
you probably
better.
have more experience than both of us. So
yeah, totally.
If you think it's right, do it that way. Yeah, that's what I think.
I'll make a note to add it to the documentation though, so we can get someone who actually knows what they're talking about, who's tested it, to give a recommendation from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind the standards are different for Australia to the rest of the world, because we do above ground to everybody else. So just be careful with that.
Well, if you want to give us some feedback on that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because then we add that to the manual basically, and we figure it out properly.
Yeah, if you want to confirm anything, please post it to the community with some sort of like, here's what I know, what do you guys think, and we can make sure that someone who really is working on this can see it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Next one. GPS. So if you use the GSM GPS dongle, the system will track where it is. But you can also put one of those devices here on the screen into the USB port on your color control, and then you have GPS data as well. So that's and that means then also that you can do geofence. You can see where your boat has been or vehicle has been, where your So that's something that some people might not know. Relays. So the number of relays in each product. Some products have only one. Certain products have more relays. So the servo's got 2, for instance. Color control's got 1. You can set this relay up for different uses. So you can set it up as an alarm relay, but also as a generator start-stop relay, as a tank pump relay, or a manual relay. The manual relay is really funny. You can actually click on the button manual and click on, off, and you hear click, click, click behind you. Yeah. So it's, and then connect something to it. So manual relay would be handy if you have a remote site and you want something, if something has happened or someone gave you a ring, that you press a button and make something happen on the other side to get someone out of a sticky situation. So there could be uses for that, because this relay you can manually steer from a distance. So if someone rings you up, said, look, I need to have an emergency start on the generator, some really crazy emergency process. You press it from your desktop computer, and then somewhere else the relay will engage and initiate a process, for instance. But the normal users of this relay is basically the top three: alarm, generator, start, stop, and tank pump. Alarm relay speaks for itself. Generator, start, stop is next. Yep.
One question, or one
Yep.
comment on the previous slide. So at the moment, the second relay is limited. So you can't do all of the features you see there, alarm, generator, and tank pump, on the second relay. You can only do that on the first relay. So the second relay is limited to just manual use at the moment. I don't know when that's going to be fixed either. No time soon, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame, because then you can't do pump and generator.
Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is, the hardware is in there,
Yep.
and yeah, so it's just to meet the feature will come once the necessary firmware gets in.
Yeah, it's software development time, exactly.
Yeah. This is one of my older slides, I see. Yeah, so generator start stop from a GX device. It's the ultimate generator start stop. It has far more features to it than any generator comes with already. So you can do time of date, you can do maintenance runs, you can do not start unless it's daylight or the batteries are more empty. You can remotely make the generator run, so you can go behind your own desktop and say, oh, yeah, I'll turn the generator on. Yeah, so the GX device uses anything it connects and can use that towards generator start stop. So if you have a battery monitor in it, it will use that. It will use voltages. It uses if the load is bigger than so much watts, then start the generator, because the load is bigger than the rating of the inverter. So there can be a whole lot of different things to do generator starting on, all based on whatever is connected to the color control. So these are some slides of all the different possible settings, and there might even be, this is some while ago, but I don't think much has changed. It's pretty well, so you can do manually start the generator or make it automatically start. You actually get specs, I mean, a little tally as well. So because the generator starts and stops with a signal from the color control, the GX device actually keeps track of how often the generator has been on. So you can see it's been on for 7 seconds. It had 22 hours in total. Auto starters on, manual starters on, runtime. So you can actually basically calculate diesel usage and all sort of other things, and find out when maintenance is due for the generator. And then these other slides are all the start and stop conditions. So you can do minimum runtime, you can set quiet hours, you can reset the day counters in case after the maintenance run you reset it again. AC load, based on load, based on battery state of charge, based on yeah, a whole lot of different scenarios. Basically, if you have a color control panel, just sort of navigate to the generator start stop and just sort of have a look at all the different possibilities. It's pretty endless. I have in the planning in a few weeks from now a training on generators, a webinar. Not that I'm a super generator expert, but it's gonna go a bit more into depth into what you can and cannot do with generators and where to watch out for, and maybe even a sharing session with people that know maybe more about generators than me. I still sort of hate generators because I'm always involved with systems that don't work.
Yeah, when they're going wrong. Yeah.
And I hate the sitting there and the fumes and the noise, and yeah, because yeah. But anyway, it's but they are essential part of a lot of systems. Without that, it's if the sun doesn't shine, you need to get your power from somewhere. Yeah.
I want to make one comment on
Yeah.
this feature. It's not just for generators. So this is actually a super configurable relay option. So you can use the relay to drive anything you like. It's just opening and closing a switch based on rules. So you got lots and lots of controls here to make a relay on a GX device do whatever you want to connect to the relay. It just happens to be under the generator menu.
Yeah. Then tank pump settings again, so you can start use that same relay that you were used to start on the generator. You now use to turn a pump on or off. So you can say start and stop level. So you can either empty the tank or fill the tank up, depending what type of tank it is. And yeah, so it looks at the tank sensor value. So you can select which sensor it looks at. Start level, stop level, and pump state. So that's again, I haven't never actually set up a system like this, but it's pretty. It speaks for itself. and test it out, I would say. Don't just program it, run away, and then the tank overflows or something, well, because the pump doesn't stop. So always test these things once you program it at a customer site. So and some additional features. This is not to do with external things. These are sort of features inside the GX. So one was one state of charge for the whole system. So if you have multiple products connected that generate a state of charge, the multi can do via bus state of charge. The smart battery comes up with state of charge. You might have a battery monitor in there. They all come up with a state of charge. You can select which one you want to use, or automatic. And then automatic is if one stops, then it picks the next. And you can also say, if you have a battery monitor in it, send state of charge info via color control to the multi. So you can update the multi via bus SoC with a battery monitor state of charge. So there's a whole lot of different possibilities. And again, it's well described in all the manuals on the website. And then the other one that always does my head in a little bit, DVCC, distributed current and voltage control, and shared voltage sense. So there's some shared values. So with or without ESS, so quite often you use it for ESS as well, but it doesn't matter, it can be for with or without. So you can set a system maximum charge current. So that is basically not to overcharge your batteries. If you have both your multi running and the solar charge coming in, then it will start clipping. Kai, do you know which one, are they both reducing equally, or are they preferring solar over multi-charge? Kai?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I think solar's the priority.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you hear me?
That
Sorry,
would be,
I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've never seen officially confirmed. I should really just run a trial, but yeah, that's good perhaps with the stuff behind you, but I've got a busy schedule. Set a system voltage. So voltage monitoring is also really important. Charge voltages are based on what the voltage of a battery is. So it's good to have that the whole system knows what the battery voltage is, because you can have some cable losses. You can have some drops. So it's good to have that. And allows a BMS to control charge current. And also the smart battery might say, look, I'm full, I don't want so much current anymore. And then the BYD battery, for instance, starts throttling down the MPPT and the multi. So that's DVCC. Again, it has a whole, read the manual before enabling this feature. It says it on the display, and definitely read that, because it might cause stuff that you don't realize will. Logging data via USB or SD card or USB stick. So you can put, so normally the memory of the color control is only about 2 days worth of memory. So if there's no internet and we can't send the information away after 2 days, the rest will be lost. So to expand that, you can stick an SD card into the unit or a USB stick. So if you have a 1 gigabyte SD card, you can get 3 years of data stored. You can even remove the card, read it out with Victron Connect. Windows version has got a special piece of software where you can read out the SD card. And then you can even send what's on the SD card to a VRM site if you have totally no internet. Yeah, so it's SD card can be done for manual firmware updates. Also, if you have no internet, you can use the SD card to update the firmware of a color control of a GX device. It's yeah, different possibilities. Updating firmware, always update when you first get the unit. Actually, when I installed the servo behind me, it did a firmware, because that's normally was on my list of things to do a firmware update, and it did it already automatically. I didn't even have to initiate it. So that's pretty good as well. So, but it's good to start off, and also for the other Victron products. When I connected this VCAN MPPT, it's one of the early ones that had been sitting in my storage unit for a little while, meant for a trade show. This one didn't get recognized by the servo straight away. Not until I first updated the firmware in here did the servo recognize it. So if you connect all the products that were not all bought at the same time. Update all the firmware, and then we can connect properly. That's rule number 1 for any system install. Then there is something to say to turn automatic firmware updating off of the GX device after you've installed. Quite often, my system, I have at home, I run the beta firmware in my system, and it always updates to the newest version that's not even been released yet. This is not, of course, for commercial systems. Never do that, or at people's houses and things like that. But in my case, it's research stuff. I've never had a problem yet, which is interesting. My system has always worked, even though it's done beta firmware non-stop, and it's never made a problem with that yet. But that's not to say that it can't. It has happened in the past that the new firmware update might have changed the functionality, and then all of a sudden a system does less or becomes less responsive. So there's or advice is, if it's a really critical, mission critical system or an unattended system, turn that automatic firmware updating up, because when you install the system and the system works the way it should, there's no need to update anything, because don't fix it if it ain't broke type thing. I mean, it's a power system. It's not your iPad. It's a different type of category.
I think now, Marguerite, and if not now, extremely soon, this will be turned off by default. So you'll have to turn on automatic updates for a GX device. It could already be that case. If it's not the case now, it will be at least in the next month. Yeah,
because like I said, it's not your iPad. My phone or something, I want the newest update, because then I have new emoticons or something like that. But it's different with a power system. It should just make power. The bells and whistles are secondary to that. First we had the GX device. That's all set up. Next thing is, I'm going over in time already. I realize it's going longer.
Yeah. What do you want to do? Do you want to keep going?
I'll do the VRM briefly, and then we'll see. I've talked longer than, it's a big topic. That's the whole problem. Victron remote monitoring. So that's the VRM website. To be able to use it, this retrieves all the data from it. To use it, you first need to make an account. So you have to set up an account, make a login. Once you have an account, you add installations to that account. So set up your installation, can be other installations. And once the installation is in VRM, you can also set up multiple users of that account. So in my case, I have full control of my own system, and Craig and Chris, my colleagues, they can only look but not make changes. So they don't have full control. So you can even say that the customer has looking rights and you as installer has full control, because sometimes you don't want them to have full control either. That could cause problems. It's also possible sometimes you hear that someone has inherited a system from another installer, then all the details are lost and no one can log in anymore. Contact sales manager, contact Victron, we can always retrieve things again. So that's also possible. Logging details. By default, it's set at logging at 15 minutes. And it's surprising how many systems out there are 15 minutes, while they have really high-speed internet connections with unlimited data and stuff like that. The data is not that big. I think somewhere in the manual it will say how much data all that costs. But if you have an unmetered connection or don't really care, watching a video on Netflix is worse data than the color control is. So if it's not a really big deal, I would definitely recommend set that to 1 minute. So you see much more accurate stuff. But you could mean because you want to save space in the memory or something like that. That could also be a reason why you want less often logging. So adding it to the VRM, you click on Add Installations on VRM. Then you get this screen. Click on which one you have, and then you get this little. You have to put in your VRM portal ID, and that you find. Oh no, that's the next. That is listed here, which I've grayed out. Otherwise, everyone can mess around with my system. But click that in. I mean, take that number, type that in here, and then request access, and then that's how you go.
That number, that VRM portal ID, is also written on a sticker, a physical sticker on the side of the unit. You can see it in the background there on Marguerite's one. No,
Yeah,
on the
here.
server, server attached. Yeah, then you have to open the flap.
You open the flap, and then you have all those IDs in there. Yeah,
That's, so that's on the Octo GX is on the flap. On the Serbo, you can see it in the background there, just on the front. Yep, that's it there. And on the Venus, it's on the side.
Yeah,
you've got one just back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it there.
Here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also comes in a sticker on in the box, a free sticker, not necessarily one in the product.
Yeah, which is not a bad idea. You can put it on your product folder. Maybe they have some booklet or something, or
on the customer file, product documentation or something.
Exactly. Then the VRM website has got a few different ways of looking at the system. One is the dashboard, so that gives you all your quick data. So if I go to behind me, that's the dashboard of my system. You have different choices, so you can actually go system overview and say, look, I want to just look at the consumption. So now you look at my consumption the last 3 weeks, 3 days. In that, so you can do per day. You can, like on the screen share here, you can do it per hour or per day or per week, per month, per year. And then it has a whole lot of all these blobs in the bottom. They all show total. So how much solar did I generate? How much direct consumption? And how much did I take from grid? How much did I consume from solar? And the third one is consumption and then solar. So how much solar did I receive? And what did I do with that solar? Did I put it in the batteries, or did I use it, or did it export to the grid, for instance? So that's a really nice, initial overview. This bluish zone, that's the maximum battery range.
Yeah, the state of charge.
Yeah. So this is not so in a day you won't see that, but if you go to a different day, you'll see a much more grayer stuff. So you know how much it cycled through state of charge in that moment. Next page is the advanced page. This contains widgets. You can select this. If you can click on that button at the top with the little dials, you can select which ones you want to show. So do I want to say battery voltage, AC input, AC output, V bus state? You can populate it the way you like. It's really nice to navigate. You can actually drag and drop the widgets. You can expand them. So you can look at, let's say, 10 minutes. If you just want to see a certain weird phenomenon in your system, you can say, why was that peak there? Then you can expand it a little bit, and then you can see the details. It works really, really smooth, I must admit. It's possible to download data in Excel file and also the other files, so you can use it for your own analyzation. It's a pretty big file usually, what comes out of there. Remote console remotely via VRM, you can actually click on remote console. So if I go to remote console here, it will start that. Now it goes via the Netherlands and then back to here. Before I was connecting locally with just the HTTP address, and now connecting via the internet. It's a bit slower, as you can see, but now I have the same, and this is my system at my home at the moment. See, I'm getting 600, I've got only 1,000 watt solar array, so I've got 600 something watts. So this is my system in my workshop powering this system. So this is via the internet. So now you can navigate through all the menus. You click on this button, you see the device list. A bit slow. Yeah, you have to sort of wait. It's not that quick, unfortunately, but it better than nothing, says the salesperson in me. Yeah, but it has to be enabled as well. A lot of this stuff is already by default on, and if you don't want it, you turn it off. Basically, that's easier. That prevents you forgetting to put it, and then when you need it, it's not turned on, and you need to tell the end user to go to the menu and select. You can talk someone through it, perhaps on the phone as well. Remote console local, so you can do it locally. Then you need to retrieve the IP address. You just go there. It will be listed there. You type it into a browser, and that was that other screen. So this is Venus behind me. That's via the IP address. Victron Connect can now also look at either local systems or systems via VRM. If you tell Victron Connect your VRM login, it can connect. So this is your local stuff. So this is local Wi-Fi. This is via VRM. And these two screens are the VRM screens. You can do an overview. So you just see a system and then click on here and you go to VRM online, like on the web, to the VRM website. You can click on devices. And here you see the devices connected to your VRM. So now you can remotely go into the MPPT settings, for instance, or update its firmware and things like that. So before, there's also a recent change. In the old days, you could not change MPPT settings. You could do multi already earlier, but now you can also do MPPTs and battery monitor settings and stuff like that via direct devices. Alarms can be set up via VRM. They're email alarms. You can also say who gets these alarm. So for instance, I have the no data alarm and I get it, but Craig and Chris don't get it. But otherwise the whole inbox is full all the time with my alarms, perhaps. Yeah. So you can decide who gets the alarm. Then via bus settings and via direct firmware. So you can change the firmware of products. So you can do it from the VRM website as well. That's firmware update. Then it will have that same list as it had via Victron Connect, only now we're doing it via the VRM website. And you can also from the website do remote via configure. So you download the file from the multi, open via configure, change everything, save it, and then send it back. It will tell you how to do that. It's really easy and simple, I think, but some people find not, maybe, yeah. And then the last thing they have on VRM, in a nutshell, is usage reports. So we now have hybrid genset. You can fill in the price of diesel. It knows how often the generator was running, and then you get a monthly thing with saying, oh, this is how much diesel you've consumed. And we have an economic report, and that's this one. It's a fairly new addition. I sort of filled it in. I hope I did it all right. It looks that I have $16 I save every month. Oh, yeah. In April, I saved $16 worth of electricity with my system. But my system is not really ideally set up and stuff like that. You want to hope to get more savings out of there than normal. But yeah, so that's, but I had my air conditioning on a lot. So I've used more power because of it. You can also look at it that way. Yeah. More information. So there's a lot of online training on Victron Professional. Kai is the main instigator from that sort of content.
Your contribution's growing, Marguerite.
Yeah, I have to still do some stuff. I'm so busy, Kai.
Well, you've got one up already. So the three-phase introduction has been converted into online training, and the assistance one is ready to go up as well.
Yeah. Ah, good. GX product page. Yeah, really, there's the overview page, and then it has links to the product pages, to the manuals, the comparison of everything. So that's a really nice starting point if you want to learn more. Of course, all the manuals and the videos. There's so many videos out there. Go to Victron Professional, look at videos, and there's a whole pile of them. They're probably also in the training module, so all that content. So yeah. And that's it for today.
All right, thank you very much, Marguerite. That was great.
It was very good, Marguerite.
Good.
Can I just make a comment to all the dealers and people that are watching? With what Marguerite just went through with the VRM, it's quite a big selling feature to a lot of industries, especially marine and that sort of thing. So utilize the things like, I know I've done a test with my generator with the fuel consumption. It was, I think I used $2 of fuel a day because I've got a lithium battery as well. But it's there's sort of selling features like before you sell an inverter charger, think about the color control of any of the GX devices as the main feature to sell, rather than just an inverter charger, because these are things that people want to know. They want to log data. They want to know about their systems, their usage, their performance, all that sort of thing. So it's a really important sales feature for Victron products, the VRM and the GX devices in general. Okay.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah.
So I guess how much time do we have for questions, Marguerite?
I've got all day.
Okay, all day.
Sort of, yeah.
I don't have all day, but
Yeah.
there were a bunch in the chat. If you've still got some remaining, please ask them. We can unmute you and you can just have a bit of a talk now. Otherwise, have a read through the chat as well, because there was some good, interesting questions asked and answered in there, which I didn't want to interrupt Marguerite about during the training. And thank you to everyone who's giving us the thanks. Really appreciate it. Good showing today as well. Good numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting popular. It's interesting. Yeah, but it's a nice way of doing it. What I like about it is that it's not so long as the normal trainings were.
Not a full day. Yeah.
And you concentrate much more on the topic this way, I think, too, which is interesting. Yeah. But
Marguerite, it's Gary.
yeah.
Oh, we got Gary. He's a bit quiet. Gary, can you get closer to your mic?
Yeah, I'll try. Is that better?
To me, it's quiet. I can hear you though.
Yeah, I put a question up on the chat regarding digital inputs on the Servo GX. On Guy's diagram, it said 0 to 5 volts for a digital input. I'm just wondering if there was support for clean contacts, because 0 to 5 volts for a digital input isn't pretty handy on a boat.
Yeah, it does clean contacts as well, Carrie. I've got a normal switch connected to mine. Yeah. That's just a switch. Yep. And if I switch it, then door alarm open, door alarm close. So you can do a switch or voltage or resistance probably too. But
is that clean contact to ground or?
Probably.
Okay.
I think it probably looks at resistance. So you can put a resistor across, you can put a switch across, and you can put a voltage across.
I'll test it. Thanks, Marguerite.
I think.
Yeah, worth the test. Yeah.
One says data and the other one says ground. So one is the positive and it's towards ground indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's the same as, I think it's just open collector or something. A bit like what we have, I think, in the GXs, I think. But I have to play around. I might do that afterwards. Yeah. Are you logging on tomorrow as well, Carrie?
Yes, I will be.
Yeah, I'll play around with it after this webinar before I dismantle it all and then give you the answer tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a big list of people. Yeah.
I like this one, Marguerite. There's lots of thank yous in the chat.
Ah, cool.
It was good to do.
Yeah, I sort of had fun making this presentation in a weird way. It was good connecting. I was still really impressed how easy it is to set up the servo from scratch. You should almost, you'll find it soon, Craig and Chris. Yeah, but it was, you go to the Victron Connect app and just start that way. That's the easy way.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement, especially even if you've got the screenless unit, just the Servo GX with no GX touch. Being able to connect to it with Victron Connect and get it set up that's really good.
Yeah, and it
the
shows
Venus
up in
GX missed that. Yeah,
because it has Bluetooth in there, which I maybe should have put a bit more effort on. But yeah, we'll see. It's a bit like an introduction course on the GX.
Yeah, it's a big overview of the GXs. It's not specific about the Servo GX.
Yeah, it points you the way, and because one of what I always say, the problem of Victron is that we have all the information in so many different spots that people don't really know where to find it anymore. And this gives you like a small introduction course in what's possible, where it is, and then if you want to read further, now you know where to look for these things and what to type into search engines. Also, just Googling things. Type in alarm relay GX Victron, and that probably gets you to the right spot right there and then. That's although I have a love-hate relationship with Google because I don't want them to know so much about me. They are.
Yeah, any search engine though, our optimization is good enough. You don't have to use Google.
Yeah, and when I typed in ESS installation in a browser, it actually pops up with my quick installation guide, which in the handy steps of Google itself, I was impressed. So my dislike for Google, there's something good as well.
It doesn't look like it's updated in the demo library.
Sorry?
The demo library of Victron Connect.
Doesn't have the servo in there.
No.
Oh, I have to get that added. Yeah, good point, Craig.
But
I'll
there's
talk
not
to-
much. Shall I show? I've got my iPad
Yeah,
connected
we
to the
should. It
TV.
should be in there though. I'll tell Jesus to.
When I get mine, I'll get mine this week by the looks of it. So it's on its way. So I'll just have a go and I'll let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll show you.
Well, you've already got one too, Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote the manual, mate. I've had one for
Yeah,
6
but-
months. But I wrote Jono's video is good. It shows.
Yeah.
I'll post the link in the thing. It shows
Yes.
what you can see.
Yeah.
But it should be in the demo mode, right? Yeah.
So, Craig, can you see my TV?
It's
It's a bit blurry, Margaret.
pretty blurry. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, this is Victron Connect. I can't do it with my PC because I don't have...
C'est pas parfait.
Yeah, but anyway, it has servo on there. So you have two servos. One is via the Wi-Fi and the other one is via Bluetooth.
Yeah.
This is the Bluetooth one. It's got the same 666x0 password. It connects to it. So now connecting to my servo with Bluetooth. Oh yeah, not now. Yeah, so now you have... It already knows its IP address. It says now product, change, pin code, edit, VRM online portal. So how I set it up was click on the wheel, and that's how I made it connect to the network. See, so you just do it that way. I won't do too much because it all goes on the internet. But yeah, it doesn't show much. You can't just. The remote console is still via the network. It's not via Bluetooth. So the stuff you can do via Bluetooth is not that much. It's mainly at the moment only used for setting it up in a nice quick way.
Gets you started.
It's
That's
not
right. That's a big thing.
This stuff is not via Bluetooth, but that's via the network already.
Okay.
So that's but play around with it. But use Victron Connect for setting it up and adding it to your VRM site. It makes life easy. It was actually really intuitive. I thought might as well connect Bluetooth because I wanted to see that feature. So I did that straight away. And then I just clicked around. But don't forget to click on that little settings wheel and watch the Jono movie beforehand if you want to for extra instruction. But I never even watched the Jono video yet. It's on the list.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it is. But sometimes I can't.
Short, nice music. Jono's
Jono is
soothing
good like
voice.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. But no,
He's retired now, huh?
Retired?
Nah, not that, Jono.
Oh, other John.
No, that's John
He's-
Rushford.
You know, John Rushford, the blogger, has retired from Victron,
Yeah.
but Jono is now Victron's newest employee.
Yeah. He's
Oh, is he official now?
yeah,
He
he's
is
your
official.
official colleague, yeah.
Yep.
Since Friday or something. Yeah.
Yep, no longer a contractor. So
Yeah.
more videos from Jono coming.
Yeah, he
And
does a good job. Yeah.
I hope I'm not spoiling anything. He's also going to sell his boat and buy a house so he can make videos in it.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
is
that's
his
a
boat
bad-
finished?
his boat's finished, but he's
People
Because
should
of the-
sell their houses and buy boats. Much better.
yeah, he's been through it. He's done it, mate. He's got 50,000 followers. He's done it.
Yeah.
Marine. Yay.
Yeah.
You're not living on the thing, mate. Maybe after 5 years of living on it, you might feel different.
I stopped the recording.
Oh yeah, good idea.